Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So taking out a fun video for you guys today because we're doing a little bit of a pre-Black Friday ModRetro M64 episode. That is because late last night more information was published about the ModRetro M64, the FPGA N64 console that's going to be taking on Analogue 3D. And as of Friday they're going to be revealing even more information, so we're going to go over what we know today, and then I will definitely drag my ass into the studio after eating a bunch of leftover turkey and make you guys a video so long as it comes out early enough in the day for me to get to it by 4 p.m. But honestly, N64 FPGA in 2025 is blowing up. Analogue 3D has shipped. Now I haven't gotten mine yet, even though I paid for the priority shipping. Amazon's had that thing for over a week now, and they still haven't managed to get it to my door. And it's one of those things, I'm not sure what the definition of the word priority is, but taking a week to move from California to Illinois is not mine. But it is one of those things. Once I finally review the Analogue 3D, I'll try to ignore stuff like that and just basically review it based on the hardware. But it is interesting that suddenly Nintendo 64 is seeing as big of a 2025 as it saw as of launch here in the 90s. We have Mr. FPGA and Robert's Core. We've had that for some time now. Analogue 3D is now trickling out into people's hands, and ModRetro M64 is definitely on the way. They say it's going to be going into production very shortly. And if you aren't aware or didn't see the previous videos, this actual hardware is using the Mr. FPGA core from Robert or FPGA Zoom Spas. It is being improved, it is being enhanced, but it is basically at its basis the same core that we play on Mr. FPGA. So even though I can't give a review of something that doesn't exist, the review on the Mr. FPGA core was absolutely exceptional outside of a couple little weird things that wouldn't work correctly. So I'm sure those are going to get completely patched up on the M64, because Robert always said when more powerful FPGA hardware was available, he could fix those last few dangling issues and make it a one-to-one recreation of the actual N64 hardware. So that is definitely something to look forward to, and something that I will take a look at on the channel when there actually is hardware to display. But it's one of those things, we've been paying attention to N64 FPGA content for almost like 3 years now, all the way back to when we got the original test core on Mr. FPGA and it looked like this. I've loved talking about anything N64 in the FPGA sphere, and I know a few people don't love ModRetro. That is fine, you don't have to. I am just giving you guys the FPGA news, and you can decide to do with it from there. And it is after Thanksgiving after all, so play cool in the comments. But now we have more content in regards to what the M64 is going to be priced as, what it is going to do, and everything else. And if you're wondering, yes, this is obviously not footage from the actual M64 or N64 console. It is just a little bit of a teaser. But you did get some more information, including a very close look at what the console shell is going to look like. It has some pretty big feet, and it has a rotary dial as well. So it seems like you're going to be able to navigate the menu via that. And you'll see it says 4K graphics powered by AMD. But based on the footage and based on how this core works, it does not look like it is actually rendering anything in 4K internally for the N64. It seems to be a post-processing thing, just like the RetroTink 4K would do, just like the More 4K would do, or Analogue 3D. It seems to be that the games are still going to be rendering in their internal resolution, whether that's 240p or 480i, because the N64 could do high-res mode in interlaced. And I will say I love the transparent plastic. The case design definitely feels a little bit more toy-like than Analogue 3D, but I think that definitely works as far as an actual industrial design and design object is concerned. And what are the 4 titles that are going to be revealed on Friday? We'll just have to wait and see, but definitely expect that video to come from me because I will be talking about it. And this again is just so interesting to see that suddenly N64 has this level of cachet in 2025 moving into 2026. I know there's a lot of Nintendo nostalgia out there, and unfortunately Nintendo on their own NSO emulation for N64 really does drop the ball more often than not by giving us one of the actual worst ways to play these games. And I know I like to rag on Nintendo a little bit for their emulation lawsuits on the channel, but the reality is if you want to emulate N64 games, you go to Ari's, you go to Rosalie's Mupen GUI, you go to Mupen 64. Going to NSO is honestly the least efficient way to play N64 games. But you do need to remember that you and I, me making this video, and you the viewer who knows how to emulate things, is not your casual audience. Someone who owns a Switch or Switch 2 that wants to play Mario Kart 64, they just want to go ahead and actually just play the thing without emulating it. And it was fun to see this at the trade show, and again, now that Analogue 3D has shipped, we're going to be able to put these things side by side as soon as the ModRetro M64 does exist. There's definitely some interesting answers here as well. I would say it's kind of two truths and a lie territory. The open source hardware and software compared to Analogue 3D is going to be true. Better compatibility, I don't know what else would be working, because it seems like Analogue 3D is running everything minus flashcards to this point in time. But it does support all analog video formats, which is something the Analogue 3D isn't going to be doing whatsoever. So like I said, the better compatibility, I'm really not sure on that one, but it is interesting as far as everything else is concerned, and getting that analog video out is going to be a big thing for a lot of users. But as far as the actual better compatibility, I'm assuming that they're talking about flashcards, so my guess would be in the next week or so, you'll have updated firmware on the EverDrive side of things that will make those flashcards work with Analogue 3D. Now I am very surprised that Analogue didn't send the flashcard makers hardware to test against, because it's one of those things. I know some of the flashcard makers have to take flack from people that own them when they don't work on hardware that existed after those flashcards are manufactured, which was basically the most opposite thing imaginable. Don't get mad at the flashcard makers if their hardware doesn't work on a system that didn't exist when they manufactured it. Even so, it is a great thing that the community basically goes and figures out with the makers how to improve those things to make them work, because I really am again surprised that Analogue didn't just try to talk with everyone who makes aftermarket hardware for the N64 to make sure it was all thoroughly tested before it shipped. But again, it's one of those things, I'm sure that statement's not going to be true in about a week once you actually get some of those updates. Now, other things that have been communicated via Twitter is the statement that using original hardware on original TVs usually results in terrible image quality and lag. That is kind of 50% of a true statement and 50% of a misnomer. If you use something like RetroTink 4K, if you use something like the Pixel Effects More 4K, you're going to get an absolutely exceptional image out of N64, so long as you have an RGB mod or an HDMI mod. But it is one of those things, if you just try to plug composite into the back of a 4K TV, then you actually would end up having something that looked absolutely terrible, at least in my experience. So it is one of those things. You'll also see that it's stated that it's already supporting a bunch of other cores internally, not just N64. And I am just guessing at this. You cannot take this as the gospel. Take it with a bunch of grains of salt. But since Robert FPGA Zoom's boss is developing the core on the M64, and he also made the PlayStation 1 core for Mr. FPGA, my guess would be this is another core probably being tested on there, because Robert's made a handful of cores for Mr. FPGA and all are incredible. But when the statement is made that the M64 is already running other cores and Robert is the lead developer on the FPGA side of things, my guess would definitely be that he was trying to see if he could get some of his other cores to actually boot on the hardware. So that is a stated claim as far as M64 is concerned. It can and will run other cores. And that definitely is going to be something that is very interesting to see, because right now everyone keeps talking about what the next generation of FPGA hardware for gaming is going to be. And even though Analogue has an absolutely massive 200,000 logic element FPGA chip on the Analogue 3D, there is no open FPGA for it, so the only expectation is it ever runs N64 games, which is fine. That's what Analogue stated off the top. So the fact is, you can't be mad at them for their system doing something that they never said it would do in the first place. So it seems like the M64 is taking the opposite end of that ethos, saying we're going to strap a big FPGA chip onto it that can run N64, and we're going to let you load up whatever other cores you want. But do remember that isn't a free thing. Cores need to be ported, and considering the M64 is using an AMD FPGA part, not anything made by Altera, it is a little bit more complicated, because even though an FPGA chip at its underlying technology is field programmable gate array, that doesn't mean that the pinout isn't different. That doesn't mean that you actually have to put some work into getting cores ported over. So don't expect M64 to run every single thing Mr. could run day 1, week 1, or even year 1. It would probably be a multi-year process to maybe even get 25% of the cores that Mr. FPGA run onto it, if that in fact would even work, because it's one of those things. People actually need to want to do the work before you'd ever even see a core port. But honestly, this is some fun information. It'll be fun to take a look at this on Friday to see what other info we get. And again, it's one of those things. I'd rather just be sitting in my pajama pants eating leftover turkey, but I do love FPGA gaming and I do love talking about it. So as long as that information is out, say by like 1 or 2 o'clock Central Standard Time on Friday, I'll make sure I get you a video at 4 p.m. on Friday. And if not, you'll probably see it Saturday morning so you can have it with your turkey and milk cereal. All jokes aside, I really wouldn't put those two things together, but if you're like me, you buy the biggest damn turkey you can possibly find for not that many people whatsoever, and you eat turkey for like 3 days until you never want to see the bird again. But N64 and FPGA has been so fun to follow along for the last 3 years or so. From the first test score on Mr. FPGA to me awaiting my Analogue 3D, which Amazon still seems to feel like they don't need to deliver, to now ModRetro M64. And again, I know some people don't love ModRetro, that is fine, but as somebody who covers FPGA gaming and technology, it would be very strange for me to ignore an entire segment of that, especially when the core developer is the same core developer that made the Mr. FPGA core, which everyone loves and admires. But we're done. Have a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. I'll have some special videos for you, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.